Hey everyone, I'm your host Kosh, and this is the Creative Breakthrough Podcast. This podcast was created to give artists the codes to build audiences, cash flow, and make a living as an artist. Today's guest is this wonderful man right here, Eric Spivak. He is a Web3 expert, and he is the CEO of Urconduit. I also know him as a dot connector in the entertainment industry. Eric, thank you so much for joining me. For those who are unfamiliar with you, how would you describe yourself in one sentence?
How about one word? Visionary, polymath, future maker. We could put a bunch of words together as a sentence, but yeah, I'm just a good person doing good things for good people. I think that's a good sentence.
Yeah, I agree with that. You might want to put that on the website. I wanted to ask you, so when do you think you achieved your first creative breakthrough in your career?
I think it's when I quit my 9 to 5 for my 5 to 9. I think when I stopped working for other people and making other people famous and making other people money and focused on myself, I think that was probably like a breakthrough where I was like, anything you can do, I can do better. So why the fuck am I doing it for you?
Did you have like a moment of realization? Like, were you working with somebody specific and you were like, yeah, I'm done doing this support role?
Yeah, I think so. I was waiting tables and bartending in Culver City and in Los Angeles, and I threw a party inside of this mall that I was working in. I had the artists from Odd Future and the internet there.
Yeah.
So there was like Sid, Vince Staples, Mike G, this guy Speak who goes for Gucci for Krayshawn, and I had skaters, I had artists, I had musicians, and it was just a vibe. So I saw in one show I could make 2 weeks to 2 months worth of work and never look back, you know?
Yeah, no, that's fire. No, I definitely understand that. That's like a true realization of like, yo, like I have the magic within me to really create the lifestyle that I want without having to be like second fiddle, I guess. I wanted to ask you though, because you said you decided to make that jump. So like, what did you fail at as you built that business? Like where were your failures? Where did they start?
I mean, I'm a habitual failure. I dropped out of high school at 16. Everything that my dad said I was going to end up happening if I went the route that I did resulted in actually happening. I was homeless. I did go to jail. I was selling dope. I did get robbed. I did get jacked. I did get life-threatening experiences happening, all in the pursuit of the unknown. And I think in life we constantly want to fail because I think there's something exhilarating in a challenge and getting knocked down and being able to get back up even stronger. So I guess the fight that lives within me has always been about resilience. And I love the bounce back. I always bet on the underdog. I always look for the independent over the major. I'm very anti-establishment. For me, I like to learn, and you don't take losses, you get lessons. So, you know, life teaches us so many lessons throughout, and I think the older you get, the more you fall into this mentality of embracing those L's as opposed to crying a river that nobody cares about.
Yeah, or you should at least, right? And so I think your story is a good example of that. I want to know a little bit more about that. So in those moments, right, of like extreme difficulty, like I've never been in jail, I've never been homeless. What do you tell yourself in those moments that keeps you moving still?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, everybody can say they've done more for less with any situation at any time. So it's really a matter of like, what do you get out of it? How is it mutually beneficial? And it's really a shift in perspective more than anything. You know, we all have choices in life. That's one of the luxuries of life and a privilege that not everybody gets to have, especially women right now because of our fucking country that's so dumb and ignorant.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think in general, like, there's always somebody better than you and there's always somebody worse off than you. So all you can do is worry about what you can change. And a lot of people, they're afraid of the unknown because they don't know if they're capable of making change or impact. And once you look at the paper trail that's been behind you or the legacy you've created, you get to learn very quickly that the world's not going to stop while you sleep. There's no pause button. So there's nowhere to go but up. There's always nowhere to go but up. It's just a matter of like, how down are you and how are you going to play chess and not checkers to climb back up to the top, or at least to break even, to feel comfortable, to reset, to find a balance, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. I like what you said. You said a shift in perspective, and the way that I like to describe it is like when you truly sign an agreement with yourself, like an internal agreement, make a decision like, this is what I'm doing. It doesn't matter, you know, what I'm being told or what's being projected at me or what I'm being marketed. This is what I'm going to do. Going from that point of, I guess you could call it rock bottom for lack of a better term, right? What are like, what were like 3 strategies or systems that you've used to get to the realization, to the breakthrough of like, I can do this on my own and I can make money?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all come to terms with like the lifestyles that we want to live and what that looks like on paper with a budget and more. And, you know, you're never going to make as much as you want working for somebody else. But it's easier, it's more comfortable. It might be like, you know, comfort creates complacency, creates kind of consistency. And if you like that, that's great. You know, that works for some people. But I've always been a bigger picture person. I've always been very open-minded with a wide perspective. If I want to be the only thing obstructing the changes that I want to see in the world, then I have to get out of bed at whatever time and go to bed at whatever time and do the heavy lifting myself. I've seen people waste their entire lives waiting on other people to make decisions that they could have made themselves. And it's very unfortunate. When I'm speaking at schools and colleges and universities, that's where I try to drill it in the most, that like these educators and facilitators of space for you to learn and grow and experience something that you don't have to bump your head learning. You know, they're valuable and they're important, but they're not the be all end all. It's not one way or the highway. There's so many different directions you can go. So use that as a track. Use that as training wheels. Use that as a helicopter dad or somebody that gives a fuck about you succeeding in life. Don't be afraid of the unknown. It's never too late to reinvent yourself. Like that, I think, is kind of where I've been. I've, you know, rapping, DJing, throwing parties, selling vacuums, being a pizza delivery driver, like waiting tables, bartending, working at Best Buy, movie theaters, like, you know, all of it led to taking care of other people that took care of consumers. And once I became the producer or the creator of what's being consumed, whole world of difference. So I think that was it, just kind of going into a boss or CEO position as opposed to looking at it as just being support.
No, you made a few good points that stuck out to me. One was that like everything you do, even if it doesn't make sense at the time, is for your greater good. Like it all conspires for you as long as you keep pushing. And then 2, you talked about how you speak at universities and you said that you dropped out of school, right? And so I find that like the most interesting. Like there's so many of those people in the world that just through gumption and determination and discipline achieve what they want, and then they're speaking to the people like, don't use your teacher as a crutch, basically. And then really I want to know, how do you make money doing what you love, and what advice can you give to other people to make money doing what they love?
How do you make money doing what you love, and how do you give advice to people to do what they love?
What advice do you have to like people in similar spaces? You've done a lot of different things in both the entertainment industry and as a creative. So is there any advice that you can give that can help people like just figure out the codes to the next steps, you know?
Yeah, so I think the first step of doing what you love and never working a day in your life is really just broadening your perspective on what is the cost to what you do. You know, if it costs $2 to take a bus from your home to your job, then you could offer a service for $1 that brings people from home to their job, right? Between every service, there's the opportunity for another service. And if it doesn't exist, you can build it. And if you build it, they will come. If you are mindful of who needs what you're serving. It's all about how you serve it up. So I got into monetizing things that didn't exist. You know, I saw where there were deficits or voids or complaints. Like, a good way to create solutions that are profitable is just finding out what people are complaining about, what the negativity is, because that travels so much faster. So, like, if a restaurant review, like, let's say Yelp, you go to a restaurant, you see they have a 1-star rating, and the reason in all of the comment sections is, I wish the menus were bigger. I wish the menu was more legible. Their website's so difficult to book a reservation for. I wish they had bigger to-go boxes. Like, these are 3 or 4 different things that people are asking for that are repeatedly shown as problems that you can provide a solution to. And you can knock on the door and offer to do graphic design, or you can do it before even asking them to just present it and see if they bite. But the flip side to that as well is, you don't have to be a graphic designer to be offering graphic design. You don't need to be Airbnb in order to help people get their properties rented or subletted. You also don't need to work somewhere to get somebody employed somewhere. I used to tell people, if you get me a job, I'll give you 2 weeks of my first paycheck. Now you're incentivized to get me employed. You know?
Yeah, that's so genius. It's that affiliate marketing.
Yeah, so I think, like, those things are just, like, ways of hustling and entrepreneurship and making money from a different perspective. But, again, going back to the root of that question of, like, how do you make money doing what you love? You have to figure out what everybody else is doing. You have to audit what other people have done and reverse engineer it. Everybody leaves a template behind. Everybody has a pattern or footsteps with everything that they touch and do, including every time that you leave your home and you come back home, unless you take the same route every single day. But even doing that, there is a time and there is a stamp attached to that. So it's like really auditing what's worked for other people and taking the best of everything that everyone else has done and applying it to your own. And eventually you'll be up with them. They'll be looking to learn off of you. So it's like not being afraid of the unknown and being willing to try things that you're afraid of or that you've not imagined you being capable of doing. And then also how to get people to do more of that. You know, it's a big speed bump. It's a big hurdle. It's a big mountain for people to be like, you know what? I work 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and when I get home, I work from 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. or maybe until 2 a.m., and then I sleep, and then I wake up and I do the next thing, or I do the same thing over. And then by the time Sunday rolls around and I get my errands done, I don't have time to actually invest in the creative thing or the fun thing or the potential business thing. So, you know, first you have to be confident that you have the time management, you know. So to create time, you have to figure out how you can make the way that you're doing things more efficient. So is that mapping out what you eat and what you drink a week in advance? Is that create, you know, your outfits, laying them out a week in advance so you have your whole week taken care of there and it's less that you have to think about? Is it like brushing your teeth and washing your face at the same time? Like patting your head and rubbing your belly, you know? But you have to understand time management. You have to respect your time, and time is money. And the 3 most important things in life are drug, sex, and time, money, and health. Kidding. But you either have the time or you have the money, and ideally you have both. So you have to make time if you don't have the money, and if you have the money, you can save time by delegating tasks and things for other people to save you that time. And so, you know, bartering as well, like that's another way of saving money to create time. Like I grew up single parent household, mom working nights, weekends, holidays. I basically raised myself and had to learn how to generate revenue for myself and also not overspend what I didn't have. So the best way of making money is really with other people's money, right?
Absolutely.
And if you can borrow, like for some of my first most successful parties and events, like I was borrowing $5,000 and $10,000 and guaranteeing them back $7,000 and $12,000 because I knew that I was going to end up making enough that I just stack mine and do it a few times over. And like, yeah, they're my investor at first, but eventually I become my own investor.
Yeah.
So You know, a lot of people don't know how to invest in themselves, and they spend a lot of unnecessary time and money and energy on what I said previously, things they can't change.
Yeah.
If you can think about everybody in your city doing an action at the same time, and it makes no difference to the result, then you have no control over it yourself. So you just got to let it go.
Yeah, no, man, you gave so much insight there, especially with spending other people's money. Like even I try to get a lot of creatives to understand, like, even if you can get a zero interest business credit card, that business credit is not attached to your name anymore. It's attached to your LLC. So whatever you spend on it never reports to your personal credit. And if you get it zero interest for a promotional period, so it could be like a year or 18 months, you're basically getting a free loan for that long. And then it's just about making your money back in that time. So if you could speak a little bit more specifically about at this point in the game where you are, and maybe even at certain other times in your life, how were you able, and you talked about it a little bit, but how are you monetizing? Like, how do you monetize now?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment I provide services that allow people to move more fluidly and get what they want, when they want, how they want, where they want, as long as their budget exists for it. I've basically created an easy button. So, you know, your conduit is built around being a conduit, a connector. We're all connectors. We all have our networks. We all have our phone books and contacts and people that we communicate with maybe once a year, once every 5 years, or maybe every day or every week. But at the end of the day, everybody is attached to something else. Everybody is connected, interconnected, intertwined, regardless. And we all need the same basic things. What I ended up doing is looking at all of my personal skill sets of graphic design, web design, copywriting, production, screen printing, and direct-to-garment and embroidery, cut and sew, fucking rapping, ghostwriting, top lining, you name it, like artist management and development. I looked at all the different things that are considered full-time jobs or part-time gigs, and I started itemizing out the minimum that I would ask for these things, and then finding a bunch of other people that did those things. So if I wasn't available, I could delegate or outsource or refer that work. And so a lot of times, like a recruiter, for example, let's say a recruiter for a market research group or a focus group where they just want to pay people for opinions to make the best product.
Yeah.
I used to tell the recruiters, yo, I have a really big network of people that play these games. If you let me do this, like, what I'll do is I'll fill your room with qualified individuals that fit the demographic you're trying to reach, and you won't have to pay me anything. Just include me as one of the people, and I'll do your job for you. And in turn, let's say it's a $300 payment for 30 minutes of your time, and I have to recruit 10 people. Yeah. So for those 10 people, I would tell them the payment's $280, and I'd get $20 per person and still be in the group. So now I'm making what I'm making, they're making what they're making. Without me, they wouldn't have that opportunity. Right. And I'm making the life easier for the person that's job is to do that. So, you know, again, it's just a matter of looking at things differently and understanding needs and wants and expectations. If you can make someone's life easier, then you have solved the problem. And that's all we want. At the end of the day, that's all we fucking want. So there's so many different people that, like, I normally meet and I ask what their Achilles heel is, because I want to know, what are you struggling with? What is your problem? Like, how can I help you? Not how can I take from you and ask you to do shit for me or connect me to XYZ ABC or lend me shit, you know? So it's really a matter of, like, I make my money solving problems for a living, like a consultant, like an advisor, and more. And anybody can do this. It's not rocket science. It's just a matter of, do you genuinely care about fixing that problem?
Right. And are you creative enough to come up with the ideas in order to solve it in ways that other people haven't thought of? And really, what you said, I think boils down to this one thing, and people always use this term, and it's become cliche to some degree, is value. It's like, if you have a business or a service that is more valuable than what you charge, and you can communicate that value, then people will pay you to solve that problem. And so that's what this man does. He just told you he solves every problem. So before we hop out of here, I want to see if there's any questions. If people have any questions for you, like a quick Q&A.
I saw someone had one earlier, but I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, they said, how can they go about pitching something?
Yeah, the best way to pitch me on anything is through my website, which is in my bio. But yeah, just shooting me a cold email. I check all of my emails, all my messages. I've got 2 phones. You know, I've got assistants helping me get stuff in alignment as well. But I do take the time still to open every email and every message and give consideration to anything coming my way. I'm not someone to block my blessings. So yeah, just reaching out, you know, and being persistent. If I don't respond to you in like a couple days or a week, like tap me again. Don't feel like you're annoying me or becoming a nuisance. It's when people are inconsiderate to time and space and they don't understand that by sending you lengthy messages or all these details that aren't necessary to the end result, that's what sucks. Tagging me in every single thing to get my attention, don't do that. Don't do that to anybody. Don't have extended conversations for no reason about nothing. Money and time are important.
Yeah, one of my highest engaged posts was how to write an email. And it was just basically like you said, like get to the ask as soon as possible and don't be afraid of the follow-up, but just do it kindly. We got another question though. When do you sleep?
I don't. I've got a chronic pain because I had a near fatal car accident in 2016. I was on bed rest for almost 3 years, pretty much, and I get maybe 2 to 4 hours of sleep a night, if that. And you know, I try to make the most of my time. Snoop Dogg, someone else who doesn't sleep, it's like maybe 2-3 hours a day. I know a lot of people that don't sleep. Sleep is the cousin of death, but also necessary for a happy and healthy life. So even people like myself that are serial entrepreneurs and hustlers and go-getters need to find time to rest because your body will tell you what your mind does not. And so that's why your stomach will growl when you're hungry. That's why your eyes droop while you're sleepy. Don't ignore the signs. Don't ignore the labels. Don't walk it off, if you will. Like if something is giving you a trigger, if your body is trying to communicate with you, like take a second to respect that.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. How does that amount of sleep affect your efficiency, productivity, mental clarity?
You know, at the end of the day, it's just like I'm an overthinker. I overanalyze, and because of that, I sometimes get overwhelmed and have like social anxiety or immense introversion where I care about space and time more than Elon Musk. So like, let me have those 2 things, please. Like, don't bother me. Airplane mode, do not disturb on. Like, and so I think for me personally, like, because I'm always on and I've made myself very accessible and very available, almost to a point of being overexposed, it allows for people to not respect boundaries. So I do every day take an hour to walk and get fresh air and sunlight and leave my phone behind, as risky as that might be to some people. And I do unplug on a regular basis and go to the spa and get weekly massages and take care of myself because at the end of the day, it's like, you have one life to live, and what you don't do now will negatively impact you in the future or positively impact you in the future. So it's like that self-care and mental health and wellness and having those check-ins with yourself and with your friends are extremely important. So yeah, I give myself time and it balances out a little bit, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you have enough self-awareness to know what you need to do in order to stay balanced. And you know, the sleep thing is really important, and it's a matter of like just knowing what's right for you. Like I know a lot of times I need to sleep 7 hours, and that's just what I got to do in order to feel rested. But this guy right here, he can do 4, and there's a lot of people who operate like that because they can or because they choose to. So Eric, before we bounce, tell people how they can connect with you, and then I'll wrap it up.
Yeah, Twitter is just my first name, last name, which is in my profile, EricSpivak. I go by Spiv, Eric, or Motivate. And then on Instagram, you've already found me if you're here, but it's eric.spiv.is.your.plug. If you just Google me, you'll find my website, you'll find my women's project, you'll find my at-risk youth project, you'll find what I've done in the NFT space. You'll find me working with the city of Los Angeles and putting in Obama Boulevard. You'll find me working with people like YG, with Venus X, with Ghazi of Empire Records, with Doja Cat, with countless people. And yeah, I think at the root of it all, you'll see my genuine intentions and values and ethics and what keeps me moving. And you'll probably be inspired or motivated, especially if you look at some of the videos or interviews and things where I can just be insightful and be myself and transparent. So, yeah.
Fire. Well, thank you, man. Thank you for your time. Also, just your insight and everything that you've contributed to the world, man, and to art. I appreciate you. If no one tells you that, I appreciate you, and that's why I asked you to be a part of this. So I'm going to close it out. Once again, y'all, this is the Creative Breakthrough Podcast. I'm your host, Kosh. Be sure to click the link in my bio and subscribe to my email list for weekly codes to help you navigate the creative industry. Peace and love.
What's up?
Thanks. Appreciate you.
Peace, brother. Likewise.